Whenever planning a gaming PC, everyone says just to go with AM5, but what if we don't have AM5 money?
Well, we're gonna do the cheapest possible AM5 build that my Gams keeps telling me to build. We're gonna see if it's even worth it after a word from today's sponsor.
We love a challenge, especially when it involves making great gaming computers for as cheap as possible. And one way you can save money when building PCs is by shopping on the best platforms, and one of our favorites is Jawa.gg. Jawa is an online community-driven marketplace for buying and selling everything PC gaming related. You're able to purchase components, peripherals, accessories, and even full-on custom-built gaming PCs at some incredible prices. Even though the PC market is kind of buns right now, Jawa still has deals like the 1660 Super for just $100. They even have insane deals on gaming PCs, like this Ryzen 5500 RTX 3050 PC with mouse and keyboard for just $540. Jawa is also running an epic DIY build competition in partnership with Corsair, and if you head over to the voter page and vote on your favorite from the 10 builds, you'll be entered to win Jawa gift cards and IQ Link Titan 360 RX AIO CPU cooler. To do some deal hunting yourself, be sure to check out Jawa.gg today, and if you end up shopping around, use code TOASTY10 to save 10% off your order up to $10. Big thanks again to Jawa for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back to it.
Yes, Gam, I promise you I'm gonna build the cheapest possible AM5 PC, okay? All right, fine. Hey guys, so again, I've been getting calls like crazy to build the cheapest possible AM5 gaming PC, but all jokes aside, today we're doing, well, what people may not recommend. We're trying to get into AM5 as cheap as possible. Does that mean this is gonna be the best price performance? Not really, but this build is a little over $500 to get into the latest and greatest platform, but sacrifices had to be made. So let's go ahead and talk about all the parts and how it makes up this build.
So for the CPU, we have the Ryzen 5 8400F 6-core 12-thread, and that's really like the main caveat of this whole build that makes it really cheap and entry-level AM5. So normally we would have told you guys to go something like the 7500F from AliExpress, but now they're starting to go up in price. And this one right here, you can get for like 86 bucks on AliExpress, which is pretty insane, or go to Amazon. You can buy it for around 148. And I mean, it's still really cheap. You're saving a lot of money, about $60 over something like the 7600 most of the time, but it does have some major caveats. So number one, the CPU only allows the GPU to run in 4x8. That means if you have a Gen 4.0 card like Gen 4x16, it'll only use half of the PCIe bandwidth. Now you guys know we love the 7500F and the 7600. Well, this CPU has half of the L3 cache that those CPUs have. What does that mean in gaming? We don't know just yet, but we will find out. And then the last caveat is it only has 16 usable PCIe lanes. That means once you're using your graphics card, that's already 8 of them. And then if you decide to do more than like 2 NVMEs, you're basically out of PCIe lanes, but we're not gonna have that issue hopefully with this build. But yeah, 8400F for the win on the cheapest price. Now, if you buy that on AliExpress, you don't get a cooler with it. So you do have to get a stock AM5 cooler. You can get these for about 5 to 10 bucks. We actually sell them at PC Bros on our eBay store, but you can find them all over the place on eBay, even with the stock thermal paste, so you don't have to buy extra thermal paste. Now, this also isn't something we would normally do. This is an MSI Pro A620ME. Now, the main thing here to look at is the A620. Normally, we're buying B650s for our Ryzen 7500Fs and whatnot. This is like AMD's entry-level AM5 board. It doesn't really get any cheaper than this. And as you guys can see, there definitely is some cheap flaws to it. You know, you are paying 75 bucks for it, but we have no VRM covers. We only have 2 RAM slots. We only have, oh, we got an 8-pin for the CPU. It's actually not too bad. And then we only have 1 PCIe lane and 1 PCIe just X1 lane. So it's definitely a pretty dumbed down board, but it does have, let me verify this, it should have Gen 4 and maybe Gen 5 support? Nope, just Gen 4 support, which it's plenty for this. And then it is DDR5, of course, because it's AM5, so we at least have that going for us. Now RAM, because once again, we're going for the cheapest possible. This is Team Group T-Create. This is their classic lineup. So basically, it's DDR5, it's 32 gigs, so it's plenty of capacity. It's honestly plenty of speed too, 5600 megahertz, but it does have some pretty high cache latency at CL46, but we paid 70 bucks for it. So if you spend an extra $10, I think you can literally get CL30 RAM. So this is just one of those things where we're not exactly saying you should build this exact PC, we're just showing you what the worst case is for AM5. And then for the SSD, we have the Timetech Pinnacle 1TB Gen 4 NVMe SSD. We paid around 56 bucks on Amazon for this NVMe SSD. And yeah, we could have saved, I think, like 3 bucks by going Gen 3. If you can even find one now, they're all just Gen 4 at this point because they are backwards compatible.
Now, the cheapest possible AM5 build, we gotta go with a budget graphics card. And we're going to the used market for this one with the RTX 2060 coming in at around $140. This card with 6 gigs of VRAM is a good upgrade over the 1660 Super, given that it is the entry-level RTX option, so you can technically run ray tracing, but not so great. It is still a good card, though you do get access to DLSS. And yeah, we recommend this card on the used market for that $130 to $140 price point, and I think it will be a great starter GPU for a pre-upgraded AM5 system. Now for the future, if you do play in this PC and you want to upgrade to another GPU in the future, something like an RTX 5060 future level GPU would be a pretty easy plop in upgrade option. Again, that is pending the benchmarks that come out on that card because we don't really know anything about it yet. Or from AMD, the rumored 9060 XT is another one. But if you're talking about new market stuff right now, maybe like an RX 7600, or from NVIDIA, probably like a 4060 if you can find one. The market's kind of messed up right now, so realistically, you should probably build this PC and kind of just chill with it for a little bit, but with these new cards coming to the market, there are options that work really well with this CPU combo. A little bit of a switch up with the power supply. We have the Zalman Gigamax 600 watt 80 plus bronze power supply that we paid $45 for. Just wanted to do something a little bit different, but this is a very solid power supply, 80 plus bronze, and really, even though this is the cheapest AM5 build, I at least wanted to get 600 or 650 watts like our Secotep units to make sure we had rooms for upgrades in the future, because realistically, we could have gotten away with a 500 watt, but again, a little more headroom here, and the price isn't that much different. So very solid power supply that will work well for this PC build. For those at home playing the drinking game of every time the Toasty Bros uses an Okinos case, take a shot right now, because we have the Aqua 3 Air, ladies and gentlemen, which is a nice case coming in at $57.99. It comes with 3 non-RGB fans, tempered glass all the way around, and it's a very solid budget micro ATX case. I really didn't want to go crazy with the RGB because, again, we're going budget, but you can spend just a little more money and get the RGB version of this case as well. But all in all, we're getting a little over $500 for this entire PC build, which I think is still solid price performance to get into AM5, but would it have made more sense to go AM4 with like a top-of-the-line AM4 board and maybe a nice AM4 CPU? Potentially, but we got to dive into some benchmarking with this PC after we build it and see if all of this was worth it. Alright guys, we're going to kick things off with a little bit of a different game. This is Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which is a new game that just came out. One thing I want to try to do with some of the benchmarks we do here on the channel is try to incorporate some new game launches, especially when testing budget hardware, to see whether or not this budget hardware can play these new latest and greatest games. And this is one that just came out. This game is quite demanding, by the way, but it looks really cool. It's a turn-based combat game if you haven't seen it before. Hopefully I'll have an example to show you guys here, but I am very early in the game. Currently, we're going to start things off on the graphics side of things, running medium settings at 100% render scale, unlimited frame rate, no changes here. Everything's just going to be running medium. And I'm going to imagine we're going to be bottlenecked by our 2060 here, just walking around in this environment. Yeah, we're dipping into the 40s, 45 FPS here and there. The 2060 is the bottleneck, which is what we like to see with the system with upgrade focus in mind. But yeah, we'll walk around here a bit and see if you can see some of the visuals in this game, but it's a very good looking game. I believe it is Unreal Engine 5. So this is one of those games that I'd imagine if you're gonna wanna get a locked 60 FPS, you're gonna wanna run some DLSS. Even though it isn't really recommended to run 1080p DLSS, we are working with a budget GPU, the RTX 2060, with 6 gigs of VRAM. So let's try that. Let's throw on some DLSS before we move on to later in the game. Hopefully we can find a place where we do some of that turn-based combat. Let's lower things to, let's do quality. Let's just do quality, DLSS. McAllister, you might have to resync. And yeah, when we're running DLSS now, we're getting 60 FPS. This feels very smooth, actually. We'll see if it ends up staying at 60 FPS throughout the game, but we're just gonna keep running through and hopefully find some points in this where we can actually test out the combat. There's definitely screen tearing though, and I will say some of the screen tearing will have to do with our capture card setup. Our capture card is a 4K 60 hertz capture card, so some of the screen tearing will only show up in the recording. For me, I won't necessarily see it if I was running this outside our capture card setup. I feel like there's a really deep story here that I should be paying attention to, so if I want to play this at home, I feel like I'm going to have to start this game over again. But yeah, we're maintaining a little bit below 60 FPS running through this entire scene with a lot of NPCs around. So, you know, it's playable. Would I recommend you get this game for a 2060? Not necessarily, but when you do upgrade the GPU, you can definitely get some more performance in a game like this. Ah, yes, fights. Here we go. All right. So here's some combat here. Let's actually do this. So let's do my initial attack, see if I remember how to do this. Oh God. Oh God, I'm horrible at dodging. Should be able to dodge this. Okay, Matt. Okay. I'm too boomer for this kind of game, I'll be honest. Oh! I got beat? I gotta try again. Can I fire again? Oh, I messed it up. Nice. Yeah, this is cool, man. Turn-based combat game. I didn't think I'd be into this, but this is pretty cool. And the performance is playable. Later in the game, it might get more demanding, but overall, pretty playable game. Let's move on to the next one.
All right, guys, we are playing Marvel Rivals, and we are currently running our typical settings of 1080p, no upscaling, medium, a little bit of ray tracing on. You know, this isn't the highest end build. This game likes some high-end parts. I can tell you that. Even though it's esports, it definitely prefers to have some pretty good parts. But hey, I mean, we're definitely utilizing 18 gigs of RAM right now. We're using all of our 2060 pretty much, and then our 8400F is, well, it's doing esports things. You know, it's kind of just chilling.
Kind of just vibing. This is definitely one of the more demanding esports titles. So as you can see, 2060 being maxed out is kind of what we expected or are hoping for. We really just don't want the 8400F to be the problem because we want this to be an upgrade focused system, which we'll talk more about like what we would recommend you do differently if the challenge wasn't to just get the cheapest possible option, because there's definitely things we would do differently. But so far the 2060 is showing that it's still a pretty capable little budget GPU.
Yeah, and obviously with you know, the 8400F, it's like, yeah, we could have just thrown like a 5090 in there, you know what I mean? But like, why would anyone do that?
Yeah.
Which is funny, I haven't really seen anyone use the CPU like, I would say, in a stupid way yet. Like, I don't think I've seen anyone do that, where it's like a way high-end GPU with it. Oh, I just stopped his ult. He's pissed. He's pissed. Again! Oh, that just missed?
I think he missed. By the way, I've seen this comment a lot, and McAllister can include this if he wants to, but we get a lot of people who like, promote huge Jamal, but you don't activate these PCs. These PCs normally get reset afterwards, so...
It's kind of risky to activate it.
Yeah, we don't just wait till the reset process when they get sold, then we activate it. It's just easier that way.
I'm being attacked by 2 flying people. Why does this guy have unlimited HP? Oh my god, she's so freaking fast. Oh, got her. Yeah.
Let's go.
So far, the 8400F, at least in like a game like this, I don't feel like I've noticed a big difference with hardware that makes sense. Obviously, place this thing with like a 5070 or above, then yeah, we're probably gonna see some type of bottlenecking, but with hardware that makes sense, I think it might be fine.
So yeah, guys, we're gonna run some builds and benchmarks, and then we're gonna wrap this video up real quick and talk more about suggestions on things we would do to optimize this. I love this game. Optimize this build for more long-term upgrade paths and not all the sacrifices we made for this concept, but we'll talk about that during the outro.
Alright guys, we just got done benchmarking this gaming PC, and at 550 bucks, it was pretty good. I mean, we got DDR5 RAM and a lot of capacity of it. We actually have an A620, which actually has a little bit of an upgrade path, and AMD is supposed to keep supporting the same 5 socket for generations to come. So I think overall, the 8400F may be slightly slept on in this current market, especially because you're paying quite a bit more for the next step up, which would be like the 7400 or 7500F. So for people looking for like a cheaper build, they're not super concerned about about upgrading anytime soon, this might actually be a viable route.
Let's talk about the other benchmarks we ran on this PC. We ran CS2, 1080p low settings are really stressed in the 8400F, got an average of 353 FPS with a 1% low of 140. Black Myth Wukong, 1080p medium settings with DLSS, got an average of 67, a max of 77, and a minimum of 19. And Horizon Forbidden West, 1080p low settings, averaged around 60 FPS. Once again, 2060 is definitely the bottleneck in all of these tests, well minus CS2. So really, this does show that the CPU is capable of handling a much higher end GPU, is what we're looking for with this cheapest possible AM5 build.
And for 30 Mark Time Spy, we got a score of 7,809, which is a 7 cent per point score. That's pretty decent for a custom build that really was not supposed to be the most optimized. So overall, I think as long as you're not overloading this thing with NVMEs like Gen 4s, and you're not trying to use any like crazy like a Gen 5 graphics card, then you might be just fine with this build.
But if you want something that's more upgrade focused, maybe spending the extra 40 to 50 bucks on a good B650 would be a very good option. But for the sake of the experiment in today's video, I think it's pretty cool to see that getting very cheap on AM5 is a good option for those who are on the fence of an AM4 system that doesn't have a good upgrade path anymore to something like AM5 that has a lot of longevity to it. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this experiment down below? And if you want to buy any of the PC parts from today's video, while you're down there commenting, check the links in the description. They will be affiliate links and they will help us out.
But as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you check out our other 2 YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/ToastyBros, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.
Now guys, you can buy this gaming PC over at PCBros.tech, and you can buy merch like this because we sell all of the merch, including the mousepad too.
We got a nice fresh t-shirt for you guys and gaming PCs that you can buy today. Use code ToastyBros on checkout. You'll save 3% on your next purchase. See you guys later. Goodbye.